Okay, let's do a fun one that could actually work for in here. A Brooklyn loft. You know what I mean? Like with those kind of like old school warehouse lofty looking windows or something like that. I don't know.
But you can see it starting to formulate right in front of you.
In the world?
And so like this image.
Dude, what?
So then.
Like that's exactly what I was picturing. Like that right there.
So this image is starting to generate and you'll see it'll like clean everything up in just a moment.
My word.
On here, but then boom.
Dude. In this video, we're gonna show you how to use the power of artificial intelligence, AI, to create hyper-custom stage designs for your church. Yes, I know there's lots of hype around AI these days, but you're gonna wanna watch this video if you're a worship leader or a production leader or anybody in charge of production design for the local church. In fact, the image you see behind us right now, this stained glass image, was created by AI, and so many people in the congregation here at South Fellowship Church thought it was actual real stained glass and real pillars in between the stained glass. Aaron is the brains behind this strategy, and he's gonna be sharing some tips and tricks for how to make this imagery look so convincing, because you need to be very specific with the AI and the prompts you give it. And then when it comes to actually applying it to your LED wall, you have to think about the environmental lighting and the stage lighting within your room to really make it all mesh together and feel convincing. So watch the video to the end because you're not gonna wanna miss these tips and tricks. My name is Jake Goslin with Altitude LED. Welcome to the channel, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our latest content to help you better leverage the power of LED wall technology for your worship and production ministry. And if you'd love a free quote for an LED wall at your church, click the link down below in the description, and we look forward to talking with you soon. So without further ado, let's dive into the story of how this all came about and how we delved into the world of AI for church stage design.
Like when we first installed the wall, we actually had like a projection version of it in same form factor. And so initially, some people noticed like, hey, the projector's way better. Well, it wasn't, it's just an LED wall. But then when we made this switch, we had like wows, like 10 people every Sunday coming up, like walking up to the wall, like trying to figure out what's going on. And then I even had a team member who's seen the wall, served on my teams, knows about the LED wall. They walked in and saw this particular design, asked me like, well, when did we get the stained glass windows? I said, no, that's the screen. And they're like, oh, but you put the pillars around it. And I was like, no, it's all the screen. The pillars, everything is all on the screen. And she did not believe me until she walked up to it. So the dream was, because South is sort of a community church, we wanted to create a design that felt really organic, really homey. You can use LED walls in all sorts of different ways, but I was trying to feel like make it like it was part of the room. I kept trying to find stock photography, and like, turns out you can't find photographers who wanna take a photograph of a dark stained glass wall with no subject matter. Yeah. Like it's not like a stock photography go-to. And so I was wrestling with it, and I tried doing some stuff in Photoshop. It wasn't very convincing. And finally I was just trying to figure out, how do I create backgrounds for this LED wall that feel really organic and natural to the space. My original idea was to build like a white wall with like inset molding that we could put trees up against that had like silhouette look, because I'd seen it in a music video from Phil Wickham. That was the original dream. And so I started to try and, like, again, something you can't find in stock photography. And so I started to try and generate these images of white walls. Like you can see, these are all generated with AI engines, and they weren't dark enough, or they were too gloomy or whatever. And so it is a skill you have to learn on how to generate. And some of these images started to be convincing. Well, and so I'll show you, for example, if I throw it up on the screen here, this actually looked great. This is probably one of the ones I was starting to think of using. Yeah. And then you put Christmas trees silhouetted on there, and it looks very convincing, and that sort of thing. But then our graphic design for the sermon series had this stained glass look. I thought, what if these windows were more stained glass? So I just entered some stained glass features into it, and it spit out this image initially. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It looked really kind of interesting, especially like at the time we have Christmas trees around it. And then I did a couple more passes, and it spit out this image, and I was like, that looks like it's in the room. And obviously, like I said in the story before, the congregation's very convinced that it's in the room. Yep. And it's very organic space. You add the Christmas trees around it and some Christmas decorations, and people are very convinced that it's a tree, and you can see our streams and so forth. So
Yeah.
you can see some of the other images that I've generated here.
How does it work? Yeah, walk us through. You have kind of an idea of something you want to create. What is that process like?
Yeah, so let me pull up Discord here. So if you go over here to Midjourney, you can see, like, you're just in a chat feed on Discord, and you can see other people generating images. But then if I wanted to generate an image, I would just hop into here into one of these newbie channels, and I hit /image.
Okay, let's do a fun one
break.
that could actually work for in here. So like,
Yeah.
let's say like we want, I think the key, I like how this vibe of like feeling like we're inside is cool. You felt like if you're inside like a Brooklyn loft, you know what I mean? Like with those
Yeah.
kind of like old school warehouse lofty looking windows or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
Could it do that? Like,
Yeah, probably. And you'll see quickly how sometimes your first few prompts aren't super accurate.
okay,
But let me see.
with like a brick walls
Yeah.
with like morning sunlight coming through the windows.
So this is aspect ratio. There's different styles. Like you can get like watercolor style, all sorts of different things to get different like
Yeah.
artistic expressions. And you can see this image starting to generate. Now other people are generating the image, but you can see it starting to formulate right in front of you.
World?
And so like this image,
Dude, what?
so then,
Like that's exactly what I was picturing, like
Yep.
that right there.
so this image is starting to generate, and you'll see it'll like clean everything up
Oh,
in just a moment.
my word. So
And then once it's done, it'll
I
pop
like the
up
one
down
without,
here.
like the one with
This
less
one?
furniture. Yeah, because I just kind of wanted to
So-
feel like
so
we're in
then-
like a, yeah.
Then you can upscale, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can upscale 2, and it'll generate a larger version of that. And then you can vary it in subtle ways. Like I can say,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like I think the thing that makes this one so convincing is it is a little bit darker. Like maybe I don't know if you could tell it like, hey, can you just make the light in the room feel darker or something like that? Or,
yeah, so very subtle, and it'll pop up the prompt. And I have this in my settings to pop up a prompt.
Yeah.
And then I will then just add a few more things here, like sunlight, early morning, dark, dim, light, submit.
mind blowing. Like
Yeah.
how close that got on the first prompt.
Yeah, and I'm like the first time I tried to generate an image, it was nothing that I was looking for. But now it's going to spit out 4 more versions that are similar. And obviously, it's a skill. I had to do a ton of research online on how to like prompt this thing. So it's still not dim enough.
Yeah. But I kind of want. But now I'm like, I don't know. Now I want to see like what that would actually look like on the wall, because that's part of this process, especially if you're doing this in your church, is you want to see how it's interacting with the other lighting in your environment.
Yeah. So then I could upscale it. I upscaled it once, and then I can click on it, and I'm just gonna save image, and I'm gonna save it to downloads here. See if it popped in here. Yep. And then I'm gonna bring it over to our machine and drop it in.
This
and-
is Pro Presenter running in the back tech booth. He's just screen sharing.
Yeah,
right
I'm just
now.
screen sharing, and then for some reason it always wants to jump over to this other theme on here, but then boom.
Dude.
So now it's more about like cropping this image into
Yeah.
the right, like it's probably zoomed out too much because we don't have wood floor here. So that's
Yeah.
probably the most unconvincing part about this. But I could crop in on this a little bit, like, and you could do that a couple different ways. You can upscale this image more times inside of Midjourney,
Yeah.
download it, and then crop it and post yourself,
Yep.
which is easier than trying to use AI to crop it,
Yep.
and various things. And so, but look at that. That's,
What would you do to make it even more convincing in this situation here? And again, I think a lot of it too. I think we could make it more convincing even if we altered some of our stage design, because like
Exactly.
we have those nice wash lights here, the warm washer light. What do we call these ones here? The blinders almost.
Yep.
Like I feel like that would start to piece the puzzle together.
Yeah, and like you see on the sides we have wood walls and all these sorts of things. So you might have to have some 3-dimensional elements to make it feel more like the space. You could add like a couch on the stage or whatever, and suddenly stuff starts to feel much more natural. And like we had a women's ministry event in here. They asked for a couple things, and in just 2 minutes, they're like, I wish we could get like this window looking out over a snowy landscape. And at the time, we had Christmas trees all surrounding this, and then we had like performers on stage here.
Yep.
And so it looked pretty darn convincing, and I
totally.
created it in 2 minutes. And
This is AI. This is not stock photography, folks.
This is AI.
This is all AI.
Yeah, and so like some of the other images I've generated, like this one looked really good with the Christmas trees on stage.
Yeah.
This was originally I was going for like this Phil Wickham's look. That's what I was gonna go for the stage. But then once we saw the stained glass look, it was so beautiful with the space.
Yeah. Yep.
And it felt like South. It felt like organic. It felt sacred. And then we've leaned into it. Like in this season, we're doing the lectionary right now for Advent. So we've done more liturgy pieces and scripture readings from the lectionary. And you have stained glass windows all around the space. We've got candles on stage. And it's just like, suddenly this tool of the LED wall becomes an expression of like sacred worship that, you know, a lot of people may not think of. They think LED wall, they're like flashy and like boom, wow, shock and awe kind of a feel. Not at all. Like this has really blessed our community.
I want to try another one. Let's do a more landscape one.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing like maybe you're somewhere near Santa Cruz, California, where it's kind of coastal, mountainy, hilly in the forest, and we kind of have a view that we're sitting in the forest of like the redwood trees or whatever those big trees are there, and we're looking like out, and we kind of can see the ocean in the background. So there's kind of like a lot of depth. Like we feel like we're in the forest, and in the background there's like the sea. So I don't know, and maybe it's looking down a valley of some sort of it, but.
And then I like to do there's all sorts of little prompts. So it is a skill set to learn how to do this. Like there's prompts that you add in, like I'm doing an aspect ratio here. Our screen is close to 16:9, so I'm just gonna do an aspect ratio of 16:9. And you start somewhere and you see what it interprets that as. And like the more you use certain descriptive words, like if you say
Like actually saying Santa Cruz, California.
Yeah, or like you might say like that last image we generated wasn't dark enough still. I might say extremely dark. So like when I generated this particular image, I was like extremely dark wall with inset molding, stained glass windows, and I uploaded a reference image as well. Oh, and I didn't do the style raw, so this is gonna have a little bit of an artsy feel to it. It'll look a little bit more like a painting when it's done. So if I upscale one of these, well, there's no
Like
ocean in that one. Like maybe.
But I still like the foggy vibes to it. Like I like the darker foggy one. Yeah.
And so like you just grab this.
And I like how dark. I think the key on these is like psychologically what helps in this space is if I'm looking at an object like the side of me, I want it to be fairly dark, right? Because I want it to really emulate. Like
And
we're not shining light that way.
Yeah, you can pull this into Photoshop, adjust the shadows and the edges, and just do some basic brush work to like make it match the space. And then the other thing I've noticed is you'll notice right now with the stained glass windows, we have really warm lights over the top.
Yes.
And it feels like those lights are somehow lighting this wall. Even though like if you're actually thinking about it, you're like, no, that's not how the light would be looking. If we were to use this image, and I grab this over and I drop it into our presentation here. All right, so this is the other image we just generated. And then if you were to hop over here and if I were to switch screens here, I could potentially make this slightly more convincing with some lighting. And then if you were to have like someone who does some set design, maybe have some branches or some whatever, and then before you know it, you get some ideas of how to make this feel slightly more natural in the space.
Yeah, and I think the simple trick is like, what's that artificial light source in the image? Like, what's the color and the brightness of it? And can you use your kick lights and your backlights to kind of make it feel like it's a part of that?
Absolutely.
To really, that's what helps bring it into the room.
And the point is, like, we just made this we made it in less than a minute.
Yeah.
It took us 5 or 6 minutes to get it over here, whatever. But like, you get the point. You change some lighting things. You add some other elements on stage, and before you know it, you're in the redwood forest.
Yeah, and like you said, with Midjourney and with these prompts, you can keep honing it in to your liking.
So, and then the other thing you can do is like, here's where I got like really exciting. because, all right, let's go back here. You go back to our stained glass look. I was really happy with this. Our whole staff was like, that's the route we should go, even though it originally had a different vision. It feels so sacred for our season. Great. Then I'm thinking, what do I do on the side screens? Because I don't want to like put up nature scenes on our side screens but black felt a little bit too bleak. And so I was like, I'm just gonna use this image as a reference image inside of Midjourney. So I reloaded an image I created in Midjourney, and then you can weight that image as how much you want to use it as a reference.
Yep.
And then I loaded in multiple images. You can layer like 10 images in or whatever and weight them differently.
Yep.
So I loaded our original series graphic, which included a stained glass look. Then I loaded this graphic for color references, weighted them appropriately. And then if you see inside of my Midjourney library here, I created all of these images as our backgrounds for our lyrics.
That is so cool.
And so they're all, and some of them are cornier than others, but I just grabbed my favorite like 10 or so, and I created a library of lyric backgrounds that completely match the color scheme, completely feel organic inside the space, and don't distract from the beautiful stained glass windows on stage.
Give us a quick guide to Midjourney in terms of like, where do you even sign up for it? You have to use Discord. Like, give people some like basic steps on how to get going with this.
You'll set up your Discord account, and then I just Googled Midjourney, and you go to this site here.
Warning, so this is not sponsored by Midjourney. This is just a tool that we found, and with images they can create on here.
And they do have policies in place. You're not allowed to create adult content on there.
Yeah.
So praise the Lord that.
Well, I imagine the AI is smart enough to know when people are trying to make inappropriate stuff.
Exactly. And there's still people on the edge of inappropriate content and stuff. And you can see, like, I actually used a sermon illustration. I was trying to get, like, an angry, like, family at Thanksgiving for a sermon illustration.
Dude, that's a whole other, like, application for pastors, like, trying to, like, make illustrations.
Yeah, and I was, like, a political battle or whatever, and I just created all these images just trying to figure out. And I made this background for my sermon slide backgrounds. Where I basically just grabbed a color palette, threw it into Midjourney and said, heavily weight this, but make it geometric.
Yep.
And boom, it spit out this image in seconds.
I have to have Discord installed on the computer and have a Discord account.
Yep.
And then when you sign up for Midjourney at the website, they like tell you like how to log in on Discord?
Yeah, so once you pay for your credits, they'll invite you to the Midjourney Discord channel.
Okay.
And then it connects the dots between the two things, and you can start writing your prompts. And again, I'm really new at this. There's all these, you have to jump into these newbie channels, and I don't know if there's like pro level ones. You can pay for faster rendering. You can pay for various different things. It's a whole skill set you'll need to learn on how to talk to an AI engine to generate images, because by default, they'll start with, more artsy feels, and you'll have to learn how to generate it in ways that make it more organic and authentic and various things. But you can also do some graphic design elements in this. Like it doesn't do well with text. Like if you were to say, design me a logo with this, the text will be gibberish. But you can get a credible logo composition or whatever, and then you'll have to pull it in and Photoshop out their text and Photoshop in your own text. And this is just getting better all the time.
So many applications for a church, whether it's for worship, production design, sermons and illustrations, or the communication department at your church trying to work on like branding and logos and other creative elements. The other obvious factor to this is having an amazing LED wall. So we have an altitude LED wall here. It's 20 feet wide by 10 feet tall, and it's a 2.9 millimeter pixel pitch. So from your guys' perspective, the camera's in about the front row of the congregation right now. It looks, high definition, super crisp for the viewers. Not to say you couldn't do this with a projection screen, but I think the other very convincing factor when it comes to using AI in this type of context is having a very high dynamic range display where the blacks on the image are actually going to look black. And that's what makes it look so real, because that's how our eyes work when we see, whether we're inside or outside. The accuracy of the dynamic range of the LED wall really comes into play psychologically.
Yeah, and actually, I've noticed here, let me show you one more image that's just kind of fascinating. So we had an event in here where I wanted to de-emphasize the wall. But I also didn't want it to be a black blob. I didn't want to just turn it off. And so I found this image, and you see on the sides we have wood pallets already.
Yep.
And then we actually threw the event graphic on there, and then we were able to record the whole thing, and it felt super organic. Again, this event, we had people coming up and being like, the wood slats are unnaturally large.
Yeah, they're big.
Fair enough.
Big pieces of wood.
But we had a few people saying how in the world did you make it match? Did you take a photograph of the wood pallets and then blow it up? And then is that glowing text on? They just can't quite fathom how real this looks in the room. So lots of really cool applications.
Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. This truly is one of the newer technologies that's absolutely blowing my mind, and I'm excited to see how you guys use this technology and start applying it in the context at your church. If you guys found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share it with your friends. And of course, check all the links in the description of this video for the resources mentioned here. And if you want to get a free quote for an LED system at your church, check out altitudeled.com, and we would love to speak with you soon.